Hey, it's Jason Price with you with MachOne Aviation here at FlyThisSim in San Luis Obispo, and we're here to demonstrate a instrument approach. We're going to use the Van Nuys Airport. I'm going to show you how to get it set up in an SR-22 with the Avidyne setup. First thing we're going to do, select the airport you want. We've chosen Van Nuys Airport today, and the sim is going to start on the deck with nothing on. We're going to go ahead and get this thing powered up. We're going to turn on battery 2, battery 1, and we'll throw our strobe lights on for good measure. This setup can be skipped real quick just by pressing the brightness button there. It'll load up real fast, and don't you wish that happened in the real airplane. Very good. So now we're going to go ahead and start up the engine here. We've got our masters on, battery 1, battery 2, avionics. We're going to get our mixture full rich, crack the throttle, and start the engine. All right, RPMs are coming up. And we'll get everything else powered on. Okay, now that we got this set up and ready to go, we can get everything set up in the simulator environment. What I like to do is bring the power up to the power setting that I'm planning on using once we get the plane airborne. We're going to reposition the aircraft and put it in the air. So I'm going to bring the power up to about a little under 40%, maybe 37 or 38% on the power. That should give us right around 120 knots of airspeed. And trim the aircraft forward just a bit from our takeoff elevator trim. Good, now we'll go to the Show iOS button, and that'll bring up our iOS screen here. And we can go ahead and set the weather to whatever weather pattern we'd like. You can do clear, you can just do VFR, marginal VFR, non-precision IFR, Category 1 IFR, Category 2, and Category 3. These are below the minimums at Van Nuys. Category 1 is even below the minimums, and we're talking about 200 feet AGL, and we're talking half-mile visibility. Both of those are below the minimums for Van Nuys, so we're going to use the non-precision IFR today. That'll give us 400 feet AGL, and it'll give us 3 miles visibility. And for this demonstration, we'll use a stratus layer, so it's nice and smooth, and we don't have to worry about compensating for the bumps. So that's setting up the weather pattern here. And let's go ahead and bring that back up and come over here to the aircraft setup. So what we're going to want to do is get the airplane set up. We're going to set up the avionics, and we're going to set up the aircraft. So we're just outside the Fillmore VOR. So you can see we're here at the Van Nuys Airport, and we're going to be setting up just outside the Fillmore VOR, just enough to get set up and proceed direct to the VOR. So I'm going to change this stuff over here first, because if you move your aircraft into an area where there's terrain, it'll crash. So we'll set up a heading of about 050 or so. We'll set up an altitude of 6,000 feet. And a speed of 120 knots. And then we'll move the aircraft from the Van Nuys Airport over here to the Fillmore VOR. Somewhere southeast of it is fine, and we'll just set the avionics up so we can go direct to the Fillmore VOR for the approach. Okay, setting up the ILS on my iPad here in ForeFlight. We've got the Van Nuys ILS 16 right. We do have the current plate loaded up, and we'll start getting all this stuff set up here in just a moment. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hide this instructor operating station and get the aircraft stabilized, and then come back and start setting everything up. Okay, just... There we go. Autopilot's on. There we go. It's captured its altitude. It's holding its heading. We're nice and stable. I'm going to go ahead and pause it again. And there we go. We'll go ahead and set up the approach here. Okay. So we're going to load up the ILS 111.3. First thing we'll do though is hit the procedure, select the procedure, ILS 16 right, and we're going to scroll down to the Fillmore VOR as our initial approach fix. And it's asking us if we want to activate it. Yes, we do. Okay, no problem. And there we go. So now we're direct to the Fillmore VOR, and then we've got the approach set up in the GPS. We just want to make sure that that is in fact what we have in here. And all of that looks correct. Get out of there. We can go back to the primary navigation page. Very good. And in this area, we'll probably be on frequency with either Point Magoo approach on 124.7, or we'll be on SoCal approach on 134.2. So we're going to put on 134.2 into our primary comm, and then we'll have our tower frequency 119.3 in our standby comm. We have our ATIS frequency over here, 118.45. If we were in the airplane, we would listen to it on our comm 2. And then we would have our ground frequency dialed in on the standby for comm 2 here. So we'll just go ahead and dial on 121.7 here. Very good. Okay, so that's set up. We've got 121.7. We don't need clearance delivery. We don't need Unicom. We're already at 6,000 feet, which is our MDA for the feeder route from Fillmore, or for the route from Fillmore to our final approach course there from Umber on the 161 course on the ILS on the localizer down to Van Nuys Airport there. Okay, so we got this set up the way we want it, and we'll go back to the sim here. And we are direct to the Fillmore VOR. We'll do that again here. Give it a chance to intercept, and we'll use GPS steering mode here. Airplane's turning in towards the VOR, and we can watch what's going on here on our multifunction display. Once we cross the Fillmore VOR, that is our initial approach fix. We'll turn to a course of 153, which should automatically be put in by our GPS. We want to verify that once we cross the fix that we are going in the correct direction. I'm going to set up the auxiliary here for GPS 1, so we still get our distance information to our various waypoints when we transition from a GPS 1 source on the nav over to our VLOC source, so we can see what's going on the ILS. All right, turning in 8 seconds. And we're turning to a course of 053. And that comes in. We're capturing it. We're stable. We're good. Okay, this is just a long straight line. We're going to fast forward this part. Okay, we're going to slow this thing back down. We're about 3 miles from our 17.6 DME. And then we're going to be capturing our leader radial off of the Van Nuys VOR, the 333. We can go ahead and get that set up on COM 2 over here. Cycle that up, and then we can get the Fillmore VOR into here. 112.5 for our missed approach. Very good. We can get our VOR situation here. So we know that we are now coming up on the 330 radial. We know that when we turn from our course here onto the final approach course inside Umbra, we can descend down to 4,300 feet. Or is it 4,200 or 4,300? 4,300. So we're going to descend down to 4,300, and we'll do it at VSI of around 800 feet a minute. Works out real well. Our missed approach is going to be to cross the Van Nuys 1.5 DME or the Fillmore 101 radial, which is why we have that loaded up here in GPS 2. At or below 1,750 feet, then a climbing left turn to 4,000 via the Van Nuys VOR DME and hold at Amtra, which is the 20.2 DME. So now we're making our turn onto our final approach course here. We want to make sure that we now select this to the VLOC 1. And make sure that we have our ILS dialed in and our course set up to 161. We are on course here, and we'll activate our approach nav here. Now we'll go ahead and begin our descent down to 4,300 feet at 800 knots. Reduce our power slightly so we don't get too fast. We see we have our localizer and our glide slope information on our PFD now. There we go. All right, we're 3 miles from Katy. 4,800 for 4,300. We have 500 to go. $100 to go. Should be capturing. Vertical speed is decreasing. Increase power to maintain airspeed. And altitude has captured. Localizer is alive, glide slope is alive. 1 dot below glide slope, we're going to add 50% flaps. Pitch for 100 knots. And we should have glide slope intercept. Now, there it goes, nose drops. Decrease our power significantly. It's a steep glide slope here. So you want to bring your power back so you can maintain 100 knots. And about this point, you'd be getting switched over to tower. 119.3. Reduce your power even more to get down to 100 knots. Localizer's good, glide slope's good. On this approach, you're supposed to disconnect your autopilot at 1,990. For this demonstration, we're going to take this all the way down to minimums to show the proper procedure of disconnecting your autopilot at your decision altitude and executing the missed approach. All right, we got 3,400 for 1,119 feet. Nice stable descent on the ILS. All right, just about 1,000 to go. We're at 2120 now, going down to 1119. That's our decision altitude. The weather we had set up is going to allow us to see the airport as we descend through about 400 feet But in this scenario, we're going to go ahead and go missed anyway at our decision altitude. Okay, we've got the Fillmore VOR dialed in there. 1600 for 1119. 500. And coming in. There's our airport. We know we're on glide slope there. We got 1300 for 1119. There's the Van Nuys VOR. And 1119, don't see the airport, disconnect the autopilot, bring on full power, pitch up for your climb. Okay, now we've passed our missed approach point. Activate, coming up on the 101 radial. There we go. Now we can activate our GPS and set for 4000 vertical speed alt. Okay, it's capturing. I didn't like that too much. Let's go ahead and GPS steer there. Now, here we go. Now we'll go ahead and increase our vertical speed. Very good. Bring this down to 4000. This will take us out to Amtra at 4,000 feet, and we should be able to execute, and the autopilot should execute a direct entry into the hold at Amtra. Go ahead and 113.6. Didn't like that, so I'll go ahead and fly the aircraft for now. All right, we're 4 miles from Amtra. The hold depicted on the chart and the hold depicted on the GPS holding pattern are both the same, and it's a direct entry into the hold. All right, we'll zoom in on the hold for you so you can see what the autopilot is doing, what the GPS is doing, and you're going to monitor it to make sure the aircraft is doing what you want it to do. Okay, coming up on Amtra. At Amtra, we're going to make a right turn to a heading of 281. Autopilot should follow that course around. We'll make sure that that's where we're going to head out.